But you pull your team together and say, look, I've been thinking about something and I'd like to change the way we work. And I want to run this by you. I want to make sure that we all own it, that we understand it. And so I want to explain some things to you. And here's what I'm thinking.
And can you, before we forget, can you put a thing on the calendar or something real quick we got to repair that HDMI cable or replace it?
Yeah, that goes back to what you and I talked about.
Yeah.
To do it now.
You got to do it right now. Yeah. If you don't do it now, you forget.
This is true.
Yes. So
now, you made a request of him. That's part of what I talk about in Syntactions is like you made a request.
Yeah.
All right. Was there enough information in that request for him to do it exactly like you wanted to do it?
Yes. I believe so. You can tell me no, but
well, part of the effective request is understanding the person that you're making the request of. There's background and context, so you make the assumption around. So if every time you all buy an HDMI cable, it's always this grade, this brand, this length, then you probably trust he's going to do it. But if you leave those out, he might buy a 12-foot HDMI cable, and you meant that you wanted a 24-foot HDMI cable, and you are not satisfied because he didn't deliver on the conditions of satisfaction, although your request wasn't complete.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing, and it's the sort of thing I like talking about. Where one of the reasons there's so much waste, rework, failure in projects is that people aren't complete with their requests, but they don't think about it. We just do it. It's like, hey, could you bring me a coffee on Friday morning? Yeah, and I'm waiting at 7:30 for my coffee, and you show up at 10. It's like, man, I thought you were going to be here at 7:30 with my coffee.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One of the things that we do have in our culture is we stop in meetings and we put things in the calendar right away.
That's what you're telling me about that.
And for example, like that request, I guess it went without. Let's ask Josh, actually. Do you have a mic over there, Josh?
I don't.
Okay. Now, when you made that, let's talk about it. Let's give him
this is like an exercise.
Yeah. When you were going to do that, were you going to set the meeting to talk to me about it, or were you going to set the meeting to actually go make the purchase?
I think I would have set the meeting to make the purchase.
Okay.
Although I don't know that I have now I'm just thinking through how to make the purchase. I don't know that I have the right card and everything, but as long as I had all that information in place, I think I would have just gone out and bought an HDMI that would work.
Yeah.
So.
But I could have. You could have said, "Hey, Josh, could you order an ABC brand HDMI cable, the model that we usually get, but I want it in 24 feet and I need it by Saturday morning at 8:00. Would you be able to do that, Josh?" Yeah, I commit. I'll have that done. Great, we're done. And we didn't set up a meeting to talk about it, but I made a request. I think everything was there, and the conditions of satisfaction are: I wanted this brand. What's the top popular brand?
I don't even know.
Now. Yeah,
there's a lot
Monster.
of them now.
And that might not be high quality now, but it's like you guys know Monster. You said 24-foot Saturday morning, 8 a.m. You're both in Central Time, so you have enough information, and then it's just done.
Yes.
And then if he doesn't deliver, then we've got an issue with reliability, which you're going to have to talk about because trustworthiness requires reliability. Yeah, so all this stuff it's just pretty. It's like, and the thing I was mentioning earlier, it's like, what are the things we can learn from computers, right? Because we're always talking about what computers learn from us, but it's like, what are the things we can learn from computers? I mean, and it's really what can we learn from how we've designed and implemented computers. And you start thinking about that. There's a lot of things actually.
It was a lot of growth and self-development for me in my first serious relationship, which was with my wife, right? Mm-hmm. I would sit there and write code all day, and then I'd go interact with her, and she does not have debug log outputs. And if I tell her something once, she doesn't continue to loop that until infinity.
Right.
And so I just had to make these conscious mind shifts that, okay, I'm done talking to computers. Now I'm going to talk to humans.
Yeah.
That was hard for me.
So the thing about computers, I mean, I started out as a software engineer, and my first programming job, I was assembler, which was totally cool. And assembler, any high-level language, I'm not up to speed on all the current high-level languages because it's been a while. But one thing I knew is that every language came with syntax, and there were only so many commands. The language was finite, and if you didn't type in the language as intended, number one, it may not compile. And so number two, if it compiled, it doesn't mean it was going to be correct. And in order to get computers to do what we want them to do, we have to construct language that is our intentions and the computer will accept it, right? And then, if we have bugs, doesn't know what to do. Well, think about how people communicate with each other. We have language, and everything we do is in language. We invent, we declare, we generate everything. And in fact, language is action. You make things happen. If you delegate, that's a request, that's action, and you get things done through language. But if we're not complete and accurate and clear and concise with our language, we may not get what we intended, right? And when people don't respond as we want, we can have problems in terms of not getting what we want. We have trust relationships, we have reliability, and we have rework and waste. And so I've just been thinking a lot about that in terms of what I do in my leadership practice.
So let's go deeper with the Josh example. So him and I have been working together for a while, and when it comes to equipment, he is the guy, right? So I defer to him on all things audio, and you tell me is the conversation we have all the time, right? Yeah. And so we've got this sort of working relationship, and then you bring in this new idea of hyper clarity or very specific, explicit instructions in how you're communicating. How do you then change that relationship? Like, is it as easy as I just start doing that as the leader now? That's just something that I put on me to learn and to hold myself accountable to do? Or how does that actually happen when you go and you coach people that aren't doing this and then they start doing this with their team?
Yeah, fair enough. And I've done this in organizations for years. In fact, I used to do this as a leader. And then when I started my leadership development program, it's just, I've been doing this for years, and so I know that it works. First of all, you pull the team together, and you have to be prepared for what the new rules of engagement are. So you make sure you're prepared to answer questions and specify it. But you pull your team together and say, look, I've been thinking about something, and I'd like to change the way we work. And I want to run this by you. I want to make sure that we all own it, that we understand it. And so I want to explain some things to you. And here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'd like to do. As we work together, there's 5 or 6 sort of language constructs that we can use. First of all, I can declare. And if I say, hey, I want to make a declaration. Starting next week, we are going to start looking at a different testing product, or we are going to start writing these back-end services. I make some form of declaration. If you think about it, the Declaration of Independence was a declaration. So you could make a declaration to your family, we're going to move to Tennessee, and look, you created a reality, right? So you say, so here's how declarations are going to work. And you have to have the authority to make declarations, but here's how declarations are going to work. And then here's our requests. Here's what a request is. Here's what the construct is. And there's other language constructs. I won't go into all of them. And we can go deeper if you'd like. But get everybody talking about it, understanding it, and then everybody making a commitment to do it. And then there's a certain amount of grace to say, oh, I made a mistake. Yeah, I know, I'm learning this. Learning, it takes time and practice and iteration. But over time, as the group commits to it, that's the first thing you want is a commitment to it. They commit to it, they start working through it, and it is so cool because it increases engagement, it increases trust, it increases reliability, and actually it can be kind of fun. Like, hey, you made a commitment, and people can start to have fun with it. But you got to get people together, have the conversation, and then get a commitment to it.